had former Governor Brown with us briefly. I don't know if he's still with us and wants to say hello, but we're grateful for him paying attention to us. And this is actually he that got us started on the path to clean air with Jerry Brown and Mary Nichols and Tom Quinn.
He's there, John.
He's here.
I'm right here. I see you now, Kirk. I like it when I get the full screen approach here of some of the people. You can see them better. Anyway, I'm speaking from West Colusa County, off the grid, you know, off the trail, but still on the path. Still very much on the path, and glad that Mary is as well. And I can put in my 2 cents. I've already said a few things, Mary, that you've probably noticed. That's more praise than I normally give people, maybe more praise than I've ever given anyone. So for what it's worth. Anyway, California, and Mary has been so much a part of this, has been able to be part of something really profoundly important and more important than ever. I think now with the turn from the debacle of Trump, we should have some energy that will propel the next administration to greater heights. And I think California is going to play a big role in that. So however that all works. But looking back, I can think back with Mary to, well, I do want to give Mary some faint praise. I say faint because it can be taken by two ways. That when Tom Quinn was running Air Resources Board, I was getting a lot of static, whether from the press or whatever, however we measure that as politicians. When Mary took over, it seemed to go much smoother, and I didn't hear much about the ARB. And I took that as a real plus because I knew she was forging ahead, but somehow there must have been a diplomatic touch there that really worked quite well. All right, now who's ever interfering here? We have the Russians have just invaded us. I heard the voice come. But in any event, so Mary started out a long, long time ago on the criteria pollutants and then evolved very nicely into dealing with the greenhouse gas pollutants as well. And here we are at the center of climate action for the whole planet. So Mary, you get my planetary realistic award of the year. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Governor.
All right.
Hey, Naomi, you got to go on mute.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator.
Looks like we have some legislators with us. Senator Hertzberg, Senator Skinner. Senator Hertzberg, how are you, Senator?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm sitting here in my office working overtime. You know, we have $15 an hour for everybody but legislators. I'm good. And
Well,
you got
thank
also,
you for
I
being
saw
with us.
Senator Wachowski on here too as well. I think we
Well,
have a plan to
we're
start
still
with Senator Skinner and then Hertzberg.
All right. Senator
Right.
Skinner, are you with us?
Is she there or not? I can start.
Why don't you start,
I'm
Bob?
here. I'm on
Oh, there she is.
There you
Go ahead,
are,
Nancy.
there.
here. Hey, great to see all of you. And of course, it's always difficult to follow the Gov. Governor Brown, thank you for, of course, I mean, I don't even need to thank you. You would never miss this for the world. Mary, Senator Hertzberg and I have a lovely, beautiful resolution to present to you virtually here. And I'm sure you've got a number of them adorning your walls. And there's, of course, lots I could say that's in it, but I guess I'd open with, you know, similar to the question, the Zen question, can you hear one hand clapping in the forest? I think we would have to raise the question, is there an ARB without Mary Nichols? Hard to imagine, but you are put us in the position where we must now. And I know that you, there were various times when you wanted to step down from the leadership role that you've played, and various people prevailed upon you and kept you there. And I, for one, and I know that it's certainly not me alone, but everybody here and many, many, many more people, not only across California, but across the country and across the world, are very, very glad that you stayed. And the entire globe's climate would be in far worse shape than it is today if you had not agreed to stay on in the role that you've been in, and if you had not taken it in the very first place. So there's so much to be thankful to you for. And of course, I could mention the fact that not only have you been the Air Resources Board Chair most recently since 2007, but you had been there previously, 79 to 83. And of course, you were at US EPA, 93 to 97. And we all look forward to you being at US EPA again, hopefully. So, Mr. Hertzberg, why don't you jump in now and say some other great things that are in that wonderful resolution? Oh, I know what I have to say. That it brilliantly cites these great nicknames, Queen of the Green and Thomas Edison of environmentalism. I loved that it had some of this, so often they're so dry, but you will now get to put on your wall something that memorializes Queen of the Green and Thomas Edison of environmentalism.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Nancy. And Mary, I was under the impression that when I talked to you some time ago on an airplane, you hadn't, and all these years, despite all the global accolades, you hadn't got a Senate resolution. And I was so excited. I had it on my list to do. And we came together. I saw that Henry Stern, Senator Stern's on board, Senator Wachowski. I saw him, former Senator Hannah Beth Jackson. I saw her, Eddie. Where's Eddie? I saw him from Assembly member is on board. You have a lot of legislators in addition to the esteemed Mr. Brown. And I just want to add my voice in so many issues. And we've had a lot of interesting fights over the years and fun stuff over the years. It's just been incredible. In doing my homework on you, I certainly know from the days that you were ahead of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton at Yale. After Jerry Brown, by many years after Jerry Brown, he was there a long time ago. That school, I always like to say the school that had underachievers because nobody could spell past 4 letters. But in any event, back in the days in Cornell and doing the research back when you were at the Wall Street Journal and all the great stuff, and your dad, who I understand was a 3-term Democratic Socialist mayor of Ithaca, New York, at our great Cornell at Ithaca. And I'm told that when you were asked by a journalist if your father was a devotee of Norman Thomas, the socialist, that you replied, "Oh no, that would have been a dirty word in our house. We were communists." I love those stories. That's just fantastic. And all the accolades. And the other couple of things, working with you during Arnold Schwarzenegger's administration, which, that was a big question in the beginning, and it turned out to be extraordinary. I mean, he just relied on you tremendously. And I think you had a lot to do with turning him into someone who was sensitive to the environment. I remember we all like to talk about AB 32, but those fights originally were interesting fights, but he came on just like you converted Jerry Brown into a big environmentalist and the like. It is extraordinary what impact that you've had, and obviously I think you're going to go. Someone needs to go on mute. I don't know if it's Bill. I'm looking around Peter. I'm seeing who's not on mute here. But someone's talking there. Is it Fisher? Are you on there? Someone's doesn't unmute.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Problem, but just accolades from all of us in the legislature. I never had those high positions back in those days, but I was around when Jerry Brown was driving that blue car, and I was driving Merv Dimely back in 73 and 74 around in those earlier days. And I remember Tom Quinn back in those days, and he's from those early days. I look around the room and see so many of the faces around here. Jay Ziegler and Donna Lucas I saw on there. It's unbelievable, the folks from all over the place that you brought in, Mary, and it is just another chapter in just an extraordinary levels of contributions. And it's an honor to know you. It's an honor to work with you. And it's an honor to be part of a government that you've had such a big impact. And the last thing I just would close on, because I have, when I took off after leaving the speakership, before I came back to government, I traveled the world in so many places, and everywhere I went, Mary Nichols had been there. I don't know how many countries that you have been to representing California, but all the various nation state, all the various countries that have come to California, and the first thing they want to do is come and see you. It's really quite amazing. I don't know, were you just there with Nathan and Nicholas? I know there was something that you guys just did on China that Nathan Gardels was telling me about.
Yeah. I haven't been any place for quite a while now.
I know, but was there some Zoom calls or something?
Lots of Zoom. Yes, we did do a Zoom call very recently. Yeah.
The new Zoom Airlines, but just mazel tov. And as you move on to your next chapter with more work, like you need it, like as they say in Yiddish, you're gonna serve us well, and I appreciate it. You've really moved the needle in an extraordinary way. The most important issue, as Jerry Brown so eloquently said when he testified before that legislative committee, the best time I've ever seen him testify. Finally learned how to do it, but he did a great job, and we really, really, really appreciate it. Thank you so kindly. And I don't know if I'm going to turn it over to Wachowski or to Henry.
Well, Senator, I just wanted to jump back in for a minute because I wanted everyone and Mary to know that I was not the least bit insincere, and I know that everyone on this joins me, that in fact, your work does and has and will have global implications. And when we look at the desert that we've been in the US regarding climate policy, that California, as we know, has been about the only leading light. And yes, I can be proud, and all of my legislative colleagues can be proud of the legislation we did, but in fact, yes, and I'm glad we gave your agency some ability and some goals, but in fact, it was how you implemented it and the regulations you developed and the things that you took on. And that is really what made the difference. All the legislation in the world, it's great, but if it is not implemented and if it's not put into place in a way that actually cuts the emissions, which your regulations have done, it's been phenomenal. And I really am serious. I mean, how is there a CARB without Mary Nichols? So
There will be, for sure.
yes,
For sure.
yes.
I'll say something nice, Mary. Bob Wachowski.
Okay. My partner in international travel.
Right. You know, it's wonderful what Hertzberg and Nancy were saying, and Governor Brown. You light up the room at these international conventions. People were following Schwarzenegger and Governor Brown at Bonn and at
Paris.
Krakow. They weren't at Krakow, but
They weren't at Krakow, just me and you, Wachowski.
right. But you come in on a panel and really the room fills up and everybody wants to be there to get a little bit of information of how does California do it? How can their economy grow and reduce emissions and come up with these new programs every year? And it's magic. It's been wonderful to be serving in the legislature with you for the past 10 years. I wish you all the best. I hope that we in the legislature can continue some of the magic, going forward. But it's
Better. You have to.
we have no choice. But the people that are talking about you bringing us together and making us a better person, you've made me a better legislator, and I'm sure other folks around will say yes. Or pedal to the metal, Mary. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think,
Well,
it,
keep it coming.
and you want to let Henry Stern say something? Senator Stern, I think.
I don't know if you want that. I think we got 3 minutes here. What'd you give us, John? Did you give us a full hour, John, for talking, or how long do you want us to go?
You have 30 seconds more.
Okay, I've already eaten into my entire time. I want to defer to Senator Jackson, Eduardo Garcia. I'll just say you've been a mentor to me as somebody who started as a young attorney, filing a NEPA lawsuit, I think, against the Department of Transportation over the 710 corridor, if I recall, to know that, that the details matter, and that leadership can be steady, but I don't know. I think you built the air board to last. And I think all these cheap shots are going to fall by the wayside that you've been getting. I think they're going to fall by the wayside, just like all the others have in the past. and your steadiness under fire for decades is just going to keep going. And I say the Senate Republicans are going to love Mary Nichols for it. They'd be a fool not to confirm her if she does get the nod. But we will miss you dearly, but you have built an agency with a culture that can truly sustain itself. I saw Stanley, I think he's on his third glass of wine already, so maybe you can let him off the hook. But you built a culture, a staffing enterprise, right, that can operate without you. As much as we will miss you, I truly believe that there's an expectation of excellence now in California when it comes to climate policy, thanks to you.
That is true.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Eduardo?
Thank you.
Chairman Garcia, are you there, Chairman?
I am here. Thank you. Hi, Mary, and hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone. Certainly, thank you, V. John White and CEERT for inviting me just to say a few words. I wanted to congratulate Mary for her work and, of course, for the recognition that she's receiving tonight. But more importantly, I wanted to just thank her for her contributions to California, to the country, and certainly to the world. I've been there where she's been the superstar internationally when she's talking about all of the cutting edge work that California has done and influenced as it relates to climate, global warming. But I also wanted just to talk a little bit about the last few years and the work that I've gotten to do with her when it comes to environmental justice, something that seems to be a very hot topic these days. And look, in the last few days, I've flagged a couple of questions from reporters on whether or not Mary Nichols has done enough for the environmental justice movement and whether or not that is enough to position her to do bigger and better things. And I've said that what Mary Nichols has done has started the work for us to continue here in California. AB 197, AB 617, the role that those public policy decisions have made. And now we have to continue with that work. And the fact that those are models for the country to look at as we continue to expand that work here in California, and that I could not think of a better person to lead a national agency and to bring back a lot of the policies that were rolled back by the outgoing administration in the White House. And so that's what I feel is the benefit of standing with a Californian to lead the national agenda when it comes to the environment and when it comes to the environmental justice movement. So not so much what Mary didn't do, but what Mary started doing and what role we play with her in making sure that we do more for our communities of color and our economically disadvantaged communities. So I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to work with you, side by side with you. And look, we have some big shoes to fill, but I know that you're not going very far, and we'll have an opportunity to continue to go to you, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to continue to work with you. So I've been happy to have the opportunity to be as ex-official board member, to be right there, right next to you and the rest of our colleagues, seeing all the action from the front row. So thank you so much for your service to California. And look, best wishes to you and future endeavors. And again, thank you for allowing me to say a few words to CEERT. And good to see you all. Take care.
Thank you, guys. Can we just call on Senator Jackson for one more minute, and then we politicians are off? Is that okay, Annie?
Thanks so much. I know I'm a former, but I have known Mary Nichols, I think, as long, if not longer than most of you. We go back to the 1970s when Mary was running the civil branch in the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office. and my then sweetheart, long time now husband, was running the criminal branch. That's 45 years, Mary. And I think the fact that you have chosen a career in public service is extraordinary and deserves all sorts of kudos and applause. This is not an easy world that you have traversed over these so many years. You could have gone in many other directions. You could have been out there working in areas where you wouldn't be subjected to all of the expertise of everyone who seems to be an expert in everything these days. But you chose instead to do public service, and you have done it extraordinarily well. You are, I think, someone who has led the way in so many areas, whether in the environment or just in terms of your character, your integrity, your passion for the issues. I just can't thank you enough for all that you have done for the people of this state, for the leadership you've had, for the role modeling you've done for so many, and for what you have done to try to save the planet. You know, we can all be given kudos and we can all be given criticism. Being in public service, frankly, that happens, but your commitment to continuing in this course, representing the public interest, I think in and of itself is deserving of extraordinary praise. And I just want to thank you for everything you have done and your leadership in all the areas where you have demonstrated a level of excellence that is going to be very difficult to emulate. So thank you, Mary.
Thank you. So do I get equal time, or what's the program here? I don't know.
Okay, the next on our list, unless we have further legislators to add, we're going to come back to the participants, but now we're going to have some video that we have prepared that everyone can watch, and we'll see how our technical preparations have gone. But so let's go to the videos now, and then we'll come back and seek some further comments from people in attendance.
Well,
So,
before we lose our legislators, then I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. The people who came and who've said all those beautiful things about me are the people who probably have more than anybody else to claim credit for when it comes to providing the legislative direction for what CARB has been able to do over the years. So I am so honored by your presence electronically and by the resolution that you gave me. Thank you, Robert. It's true, I didn't have a resolution. There's a story behind that, but we won't go into it. It's beautiful, and it is going to be right on the wall that shows up on the Zoom calls. So look, you know, we did all this stuff together, and people often ask me how it is that, you know, CARB is able to accomplish so much. And I'm really not being modest when I say that we couldn't do it without the tremendous political support that we've had. So it takes everybody, at least to some degree, being willing to get behind the program and to back the idea of an agency that has some authority in these areas and some discretion to try to really craft programs that can work. So I want to thank you all for your trust in me over all these years and beautiful words tonight. Thank you.
Young women, all kinds of dignitaries, and the governor.
Wonderful.
Okay, video time.
Oh, I wanna say something. I don't wanna be on here.
I don't think you will, because they've gone to videos. Oh, I don't. That's
Can't
Tom
hear.
Flynn. That doesn't look like
He's
Tom
still on
Flynn.
mute. The first time I haven't been able to hear Quinn.
I can't hear Tom.
Yeah, I don't know who's doing this to me.
Just go live, Tom.
Oh,
I am alive, although it doesn't look that way.
No,
At least I was alive.
I think so. You appear to be yourself.
I seem to be frozen. But,
Zoom may not be perfect
Right.
just yet.
And down here in LA, it actually was a pretty nice day today.
It was lovely. It was.
Yeah. Beautiful crashing waves, by the way.
Mm.
And this morning, when I got up, there were dolphins swimming out there in Santa Monica Bay, and that just
That's
made
the
me feel so
best.
good. It's just like it made the whole day go right. Well, except for the technology.
There he is, yeah.
I'm waiting for that video. I heard it was great. Hey, Bill Simmons.
The host has spotlighted your video for everyone.
I could do it live. I mean,
Right,
whatever it
probably
was,
could.
I don't know.
It'll be better live, Quinn.
Be better live? Yeah, it might be
Yeah, what
longer.
the heck?
I don't know. Well, I'm not sure exactly what I said.
I'm sorry.
Although it was only 2
Brilliant.
days ago. But basically, I think they asked me to talk a little bit about at the time with Mary. And I first met Mary in November of 1974, after Jerry Brown had been elected. And I was looking for someone with air pollution background, a lawyer with environmental background. And a mutual friend of Mary's and mine, a guy named Lenny Ross, said, "Oh, you have to meet Mary Nichols." So Mary came over to my house. I think it was 9 months pregnant, maybe a week or so less than that, but looking, every bit of that. And we had a wonderful meeting, and I thought, God, this is a brilliant, wonderful woman who I would love to work with and learn from. And so the only problem was that Governor-elect Brown had to meet with her before she could be appointed. And Mary is suddenly, and Jerry was out of town at that moment. When he got back, Mary was unavailable. She was in the hospital having her son Nicholas at that time.
Right.
So they finally got together. Jerry had the same impression I did, and she was appointed to the board. And I thought that, Mary, Bob Sawyer, and I, we were the three board members. And, we did great work together. And just like now, it was a challenging time. And I remember specifically one time, we were trying to, fairly early on, adopting tougher auto emission standards. The world never changes, right? I mean, the standards are tougher. And every auto company testified against it. And they all said they would not be selling cars in California. I'm not sure if it was 77, but some year like that. They wouldn't sell cars unless we compromised. And Bob Sawyer said, "Oh no, they're just lying to you. They're lying to you." So all the auto companies. So Mary went with me to Detroit, and we met with Henry Ford, chairman of Ford Motor Company at that time.
I didn't know
As I remember, Mary, we went up in a private elevator that went up to his office, and
Henry II. This is not the
Henry II. We're not that old, right? Not quite that old. And Henry II, and we're sitting around a little round table in his office, and he asked us if we'd like coffee or tea, and Mary said she'd like some tea, and I opted for coffee, and I think Ford also had tea. And it started off, one of us saying, "Well, Mr. Ford," trying to explain to him that your staff and all the auto companies are saying you can't do something, and we believe you can do it. You're giving testimony that's not accurate. And he said, "Well, don't call me Mr. Ford. It's Henry." And so it was thereafter, it was Henry and Mary and Tom for a time. And then at one point, Mary's teacup was empty. She'd finished the tea, and she was starting to stand up to pour it again. And Henry Ford came around and said, no, Mary, I'll take care of it. And he came around and poured the tea for her. Now, only a Rockefeller or a Ford or a Kennedy doing that would mean something. But all these years later, I remember that.
That's true. It's a great moment.
Yeah. And we came out of that meeting. Henry Ford said that he would, Mary said, "Well, look, Henry, would you press your staff on this, sit down with them and say, what is the real facts? I don't want, not for the public, just what's the facts? And if they tell you that it can be done, would you be willing to change this testimony?" He said, "Well, of course I would, and I'll do that." And he did, in fact, meet with the staff. And our next meeting, a guy named Dick Dugali, you remember, Mary, was the board representative in Sacramento. He came into the meeting, and well, Ford told us ahead of time. He'd called and said they were going to change their position. Dugali came in, presented the position that yes, Ford Motor Company would and could produce cars. It might add somewhere between $75 and $150 per car, but he would do it. So that sort of broke the dam. And so I always thought that as sort of Mary's, teapot diplomacy with Henry Ford. And it was very effective. Anyhow, we had a great time together. We became terrific friends. And Mary, I think it was Bob Hertzberg mentioned about your father being, I don't know about Democratic Socialist. I thought it was just Socialist mayor of Ithaca. But anyhow, from that came many fine kind of labor organizing songs and other kind of things that after a fair amount of wine and long dinners, we would celebrate. And anyhow, it was, Mary was just at the very beginning, she was the one who gave the spirit to the board, and is a lifelong friend in addition to someone.
Now you're giving away the fact that public service is actually can be at least quite a lot of fun. It's not all grim, putting up with bad things. There's some of that, but there's a lot of fun too.
I think that's sort of what I said. So.
Right. Exactly. Oh gosh.
It still can be.
We're going to take another run at the videos and see, because we've got Bob Sawyer coming up next. So I hope that we can make this work. We're trying again. So let's try it. Otherwise, we'll go back to the crowd.
Okay. Screen share. It looks familiar to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's in the news from time to time. The video by Tom Sawyer.
The Air Resources Board was 8 years old when Governor Jerry Brown appointed Mary Nichols, Tom Quinn, and me to serve on what was to be a 5-person board, but he never got around to appointing the other 2 members. This was a bit of a problem because all 3 of us had to be present for the board to conduct business, and we had to agree on everything. The agreement was not really a big problem because we were both pretty well committed to the programs that the board was asking us to adopt. The one exception was the issue of smoking at board meetings. Tom was a smoker, Mary and I were not. And finally,
that's true.
We brought the issue before the board, and Tom consented. This turned out to have some extra benefits because Tom liked to run meetings long, without breaks, often going to as late as midnight. Having to take a smoking break ensured that we could at least get a breather ourselves. This was an exciting time. I can recall going to board meetings with California Highway Patrol escorts through parades of semi trucks. We did proceed to adopt motor vehicle emission standards during this period of time. And of course, the rest is history, of which Mary played a very big role, becoming the vice chair after Tom Quinn and returning to chair the board for a long period of time up until her retirement coming at the end of this year. It was a real pleasure to serve with both Tom and Mary. It certainly affected my life, and I'm thankful for both of them and for Governor Brown and for Governor Schwarzenegger for appointing me chair later. Good luck, Mary, in your next endeavor.
It is an honor and opportunity to celebrate and salute Mary Nichols. She has been described or evaluated as the world's most influential environmental regulator. Rather than highlight the importance of Mary Nichols to air pollution control, environmental progress, and California's role as the leading green state in the nation and the world, I would frame my thanks in more personal ways. I will talk from the perspective of a resident and later mayor of Riverside, and as an 8-year member of the California Air Resources Board. Three stories. First, I came to Riverside in 1965 when I told friends at Stanford that I accepted a position at UC Riverside. Several mentioned that smog was a problem in Riverside. My answer, and I interviewed in December, was that the air quality seemed okay. In August 1965, when I left Palo Alto to go to UCR, my wife and I came to the Cajon Pass. Below us was a thick cloud of dirty, grayish air. My first visit the next day was to meet John Middleton, the director of UCR's Air Pollution Research Center, to ask, what is this stuff? The late 60s and 70s, air pollution was awful. You saw it, felt it, and smelled it. The Riverside ozone measurements were some of the worst in Southern California. Smog was at the top of every list as the most important problem facing the city. In 1971, Mayor of Riverside, Ben Lewis, sought to sue the city of Los Angeles and the state of California to stop the flow of bad air from sources from our west. In 1971, after law school at Yale, Mary Nichols took a job in Los Angeles with the Center for Law and Public Interest. After several law firms said no, Mayor Ben Lewis made contact with Mary Nichols. She said yes to the request from the city of Riverside. Using a provision in the recently passed Clean Air Act, which allowed private citizens to sue the government, Mary sued the EPA and won. In a recent profile in Politico, Mary explained it was bold to bring the case because it was something that had never been done before. People didn't understand how powerful this federal law really was, but it wasn't a brilliant legal argument because all you had to do was look at the law, look at what the state had done, and see that the state was in violation. This legal case, requested and inspired by the city of Riverside, began Mary Nichols' extraordinary career as a champion and leader for clean air. Second story. I served for 8 years on the California Resources Board. I saw Mary Nichols up close and personal. By far, she was the best chair of any group or organization in which I've participated. Mary knew public policy. She understood specific policies and their implications. She understood their effects and how they could be implemented. And she always had a vision of what was important. Mary knew politics. She understood who gets what, when, and how. She had exceptional political access. One example is that she plagued Meg Whitman in mock debates with Jerry Brown. Her calculus and policy and politics was extraordinary. Mary also knew people. She respected and valued staff, board members, and the opinions of others. She could identify compromises. She could build coalitions. She could count votes. In my time on CARB, Mary Nichols never lost any board vote. Third story, let me highlight 2 Riverside examples. When I left the mayor's office in December of 2012, Mary Nichols came to my last council meeting. She offered a generous testimonial and then stayed through the entire meeting. She cultivated and sustained relationship with so many people. My example is just an illustration of her leadership style. In 2021, the Southern California headquarters for the California Air Resources Board will open in Riverside. It will be a world-class site for the monitoring and testing of mobile source emissions. Without Mary Nichols' access and leadership, this new state facility would never have happened. And for me, it is fitting that 50 years after Mary Nichols sued EPA on behalf of the city of Riverside to start her career, that CARB will open up its largest state facility in Riverside, with Mary Nichols ending her California career as its chair. The city of Riverside joins the state of California and the nation in saying thank you, Mary, for your extraordinary legacy and work in environmental regulation.
As you know, I'm Bill Simmons, the first attorney at the Air Resources Board and the second executive officer. When I arrived in 1971, I found John Maga, the first executive officer, ensconced in an old furniture store, drafty and cold. But we survived, all 30 of us. When you arrived in you and Tom arrived in 1975, we'd been upgraded to a soda bottling works building that had been renovated a little bit. It was better space, especially because the parking lot was just outside the side door. I want to fast forward now to 2018 in February, when you joined the old timers, me and lots of other people you'll remember, who got together the night before you celebrated the 50th anniversary of the Air Resources Board. You joined us, and we had a great time swapping stories. Cheers to Mary. Thank you for all that you've done all these years for the Air Resources Board, for the people of California, for the nation, and for the world. Thank you very much.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Mary. Congratulations.
Hey, Mary. Not only are you a fierce friend, for which I've been grateful many times, and you know what I mean when I say that, but nobody brings environmental advocacy and smart environmental regulation together better than you. You make wonky rules and policies work forcefully and effectively. And California is better off for that. Now, I hope you'll take some time to enjoy your New Orleans jazz. Yes, there will be another Jazz Fest, I'm sure. And enjoy some good tequila, your beautiful grandchildren, and more. You know, I've learned so much from you, from how to juggle motherhood and work to how to be tough with a smile on the job. And together, we've gotten a lot done. It's true that what California does matters beyond our borders, whether it's here at home or around the world. So going forward, thank goodness we have a partner in the White House now, a Californian even, and it gives climate activists a chance to come together and to get so much done. And we will. And I know you'll be a part of it. So love to you, and can't wait to see what you do next.
So, Mary, I second everything that Annie has said. I'll just add this. The arc of your remarkable career is mind-boggling. From the Center for Law and the Public Interest, to CARB, to the City of LA, to NRDC, to EPA, to California Resources, and back to CARB. The long arc of that career is second to none. You have earned your reputation as the Yosemite of environmental regulators in this country, and we are deeply appreciative for everything you've done, not just for us personally, but for the people of California and the people of this country. We wish you all the best in the next phase of your life. Should a job open up, maybe in DC, for example, we're going to support you. Don't you worry about that. We're proud to know you. We're proud that NRDC is in your resume, and we thank you for all the things that you've done for the Los Angeles office and for the organization as a whole. All the best to you, Mary.
Bye.
Bye. Congratulations again.
Bye.
Congratulations.
When I first met Mary Nichols almost 20 years ago, and I can't believe it's been almost 20 years, I thought to myself, when I grow up, I want to be like Mary Nichols. I had a good start because she and I started our legal careers at the very same organization, she a few years before me, where she filed the very first lawsuit under the Federal Clean Air Act. But of course, by the time I met her, she'd also already run a governmental agency, been a high-ranking federal official in the EPA, run a foundation. Here she was leading a major institute at UCLA. So I had a lot to catch up with. Well, here we are, almost 20 years later, and I realized I'm not going to be Mary Nichols. I'm 60 years old now. I'm already grown up. And I also realized that there is no one like Mary. Her inimitable combination of brilliance and calmness, incredible leadership qualities, and also an incredible sense of style, something I think that Mary doesn't get enough credit for. So there is only one Mary Nichols, the great Mary Nichols. Congratulations on this award. It's so well deserved, and I hope you'll be leading us as we fight to cool the planet over the next several years. Congratulations, Mary.
Hi, I'm Senator Bob Wieckowski, Mary's legislative pal on cap and trade. Mary's been fighting climate change since before the birth of Donald Trump's birtherism. In fact, Mary, you've been in more administration than he's been in marriages, which, if you think about it, says a lot. But all jokes aside, Mary has been willing to work with administrations, both Republican and Democratic, and you've been a master at finding any ally who's willing to come forward and step up to improve our environment and reduce greenhouse gases. You have shown an unbelievable ability to work with any branch of government to design a vision, to build a policy framework, and to hold the powers that be to account in our fight for clean air and a better climate. And for that, we are all so very grateful. It's your passion and your commitment, Mary, that is contagious, and it's respected not just here in California and the United States, but around the world. Mary Nichols, thank you for being a great environmentalist. And Mary, remember, we'll always have Paris.
Mary, congratulations on your retirement. You have so much to be proud of. All your work at EPA and CARB made you a hero to so many of us. You led the charge to deliver legendary actions on clean air, clean cars, and of course, on climate change. Your work has kept the United States in the game, even when Washington has done everything it could to slow you down. And as all of us at NRDC knows, you credit all of your smarts and all of your strategic thinking to your formative years at NRDC. Well, maybe not, but in any case, one thing is for sure. I could not be more proud of you for all you have done and to call you my friend. Cheers, Mary, on your retirement.
Hi, everybody. This is Congressman Mike Levin, and I just want to join you all in congratulating our friend Mary Nichols on this award tonight, but more importantly, on her many decades of extraordinary advocacy and work to help clean our air, to help really have a better planet for future generations. And I look forward to working with Mary in whatever capacity comes next, hopefully working with her and the Biden-Harris administration on a whole host of new initiatives to try to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and again lead the way on climate change and clean energy. So I'm sorry I'm not with you in person here in DC. A lot of important work to do in the next little bit, but I hope that you have a wonderful event, and congrats again to our friend Mary. We'll see you soon.
I'm Kim Wilcox. I'm the Chancellor at UC Riverside, and I'm honored today to recognize Mary Nichols. You know her accomplishments as a professional that have made such a difference for our region and for our state and our nation. But I want to thank her on a more personal level for what she has done for Riverside and for our university and for me. She's been a great friend and a great colleague and advisor when I needed advice. And one of the many outcomes of that friendship and collaboration is the partnership we've created between CARB and UCR as we move forward with a new research and testing laboratory here in Riverside. It's been a great experience for me as I've seen our university rise to the challenge, and also a great opportunity for me to work with Mary Nichols and learn from her, her style, her grace, and her wisdom. We at UCR are so proud to be a partner with CARB, the entire board, and so proud to have had a chance to work with Mary Nichols.
Hey.
Wow.
I think that's our video
That's
playlist.
it. You couldn't find anybody else. Who else in my life could you have come up with to say all those?
Well, we
things?
have a few people. We have a few people on the Zoom that have a few things they'd like to add. So I'm not quite sure how to organize it. So maybe whoever wants to go first, and then somebody else follow up.
It was just
I see
awesome.
we've got Bill Simmons himself live, and David Hawkins from NRDC. We were talking today on the email about the memory of our dear friend Leon Billings and how Leon would convene the air quality folks periodically. And anyway, David, might you have something to say?
Certainly. I'm Dave Hawkins. I work at NRDC, and I first met Mary in either 1971 or 72. We were both young lawyers trying to figure out whether we could make something happen with this brand new law called the Clean Air Act. And we had both filed lawsuits against EPA, but Mary won her lawsuit and I lost mine. So my watchword ever since has been, do what Mary would do. It's served me well. Everyone has recited Mary's many accomplishments, so I won't repeat those. I just want to focus for a second on something that is truly phenomenal, which is Mary's leadership is changing the way the world is powering its automobiles. Think about that. There are going to be 7, 8, 9 billion people on planet Earth that are going to be driving fundamentally different automobiles. And that's because of Mary. Elon Musk is surfing the wave, but Mary created the wave. I mean, this is an impact that is Gandhian in its scale. And I am so grateful for the skill, ingenuity, and determination that has produced this. And the last thing I want to say is, I, for one, can't think of a better person to lead and heal the great agency that is EPA. I certainly hope that all of us get a chance to see that happen. So best to you, Mary.
Thanks, Dave. Others that would like to say a word or two?
Yeah, this is David Hochschild. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, Mary, I just want to say again, in the middle of this Category 5 presidency that we've had, to have the sort of resolute energy that you bring to the work every day and the relentlessness and craftiness has been such a source of inspiration and strength, I think, for all of us, because your will has just been able to overpower and to sort of go out at this point, you know, with the ZEV executive order and the incredible moment that was, you know, it just wouldn't have been possible without you doing what you do and working the magic that you do. And I just, when I think about you, I do think you're made of silk and steel, and you have this, you know, gentle touch, but incredible strength underneath. And just for the next generation of policymakers coming into the space, I mean, you're this guiding light. And I hope in your job, you take a lot of arrows. So I'm really glad that we're having this night to celebrate you, because you don't get enough of this. And I just want to say, working with you the last couple of years has been really one of the highlights of my whole career. So thank you.
Okay.
That's great.
Should I say something now?
Absolutely.
Can you? Okay. Hi, this is Diane. Hi, Mary.
Hi. How are you?
And following David, it's so wonderful. Here we are in Berkeley. So Mary, I don't know if you even know, I first, I think, connected with you in the mid-1980s when you were at NRDC, and I was retained on the MedFly litigation and got to know Joel Reynolds, everything. So what I want to just say is, for me, is the mentorship you give. I mean, we know that you are brilliant in everything you do in the wide world and regulation and policy making, but to have your friendship and your support for all these years, and for so many other people that we could look at you and say, where Mary goes, I'm not going to be those footsteps, but you know, we'll be trying. And I just think of so many people who you made a difference to, because you weren't, it's just about this technical detail of this new regulation, but it was how we could learn to become, frankly, leaders or policymakers or whatever we did. And I have never known you not to be patient about mentoring people. And I'll just say, it hasn't been mentioned, but Mary is a founding member of the Association for Women in Water, Energy, and the Environment. I'm on the board. It's the largest organization in California to really support women. And many, many thanks to you for all you've done.
I'll leave.
Pardon?
It's within 10 minutes. It's almost over.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just say goodbye. Great to see you.
Bye.
Love you.
Goodbye. Oh gosh.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in since there's a gap. This is Tim Duane, Mary. Just add that, as several people have noted, your accomplishments in the terrain and the arc of your career are very, very impressive and remarkable. But I think several people have more importantly noted that it's what doesn't show up on your resume that really brings us all together here. We're all impressed by you, but we also really love you because you've had this capacity to connect with people individually, wherever they are in their careers, whatever way in which they might contribute to your ability to solve a problem. And that, as Diane just said, was a way to model leadership. And so I want to really emphasize that it's your personal relationships with everyone on this call that have been your biggest legacy, although the world will see it as a set of regulations.
Tim Duane, I have no idea.
And to finish, the story that Tom Quinn told about meeting with Henry Ford, and then the follow-up that David Hawkins said about you changing the pace and direction and really fundamentally the nature of transportation, makes me think that in 100 years, someone's going to tell a story about how their father or their mother or their grandfather knew Mary Nichols. Thank you for everything.
That's great. Barbara, I see Barbara Finlayson Pitts there.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Hi, Mary. This is just such an honor to join this evening. And, you know, we're all so indebted to what you've done. Other people have covered it so well. I think there are two aspects I'd like to bring to the fore that perhaps I can appreciate a little more being at UC Irvine. So what Mary has done that I think she doesn't get a lot of big public recognition for, but it has a huge impact, is her inspiration of the next generations. When I went to UCI in 1994, Scott Samuelson and I started a joint graduate level engineering chemistry class to kind of broaden the horizons of students, because the chemists were kind of focused on the detailed mechanisms of things and the engineers were focused on their details. We were trying to get them to see the broader picture. So we do this every 2 years, and we've invited Mary to come and speak to them about how you integrate science with policy and regulations. And every single time Mary has said yes and come. So she's extremely busy, of course, but she's come every time, and I cannot tell you the impact she has had on these students. There are about 30, 40 students every time. And after she's been there, they're just kind of in cloud nine and just so appreciative and so inspired by Mary. They're not only American students, there are a number of foreign students. So this really gets spread out across the world again. And for Mary to spend her time, when I know how busy she is, we've just been so appreciative, but it's had just a remarkable impact on many generations now. The other thing about Mary that it's always impressed me is that she is so modest. She's got these incredible accomplishments, and you've described how people come just to fill a room when she's there. But she was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences this past spring, which was founded in 1780 and has lots of Nobel laureates and whatnot in it. And when I congratulated her, her response was, "Gee, I thought that was for distinguished people."
Not working.
Cracked me up completely. So very well earned, Mary, and I'm just so pleased to have counted you as a friend and a colleague for 40 some odd years now, and really looking forward to what you do in the future. And as everybody has commented here, hopefully it's DC and straightening out what's happened in the last 4 years. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
I'd like to comment briefly. Mary, I wanted to thank you for the privilege and pleasure of being parts of your journey these past 45 years.
Yes.
And most of all, for the long-term support that you've given to me and other researchers in the University of California that really hasn't been commented on. And yet it's been so critical in generating the science and the health effects research that has underpinned the policies of the ARB. And I think that one of the reasons it's recognized as a world-class agency is because it's always, under your leadership, developed policies that are based on sound science. I also want to say how proud I am of all of my former students who are occupying positions of leadership in the ARB and who have benefited from your mentorship and your leadership. And their presence is one thing that does give me confidence the agency will continue to be strong even after you leave a really irreplaceable hole in that agency. So thanks for a terrific ride and a lot of fun along the way, including your brief stint at UCLA, saving our Institute of Environment and Sustainability. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Gosh.
Thank you.
I see Jane Hall.
Yes, I am here. Hello, Mary.
Hi.
Hi.
The old colleagues, former colleagues. Yes.
I think we go back as far as anybody on this call.
I believe that's true.
Darwin, who looks the same.
There's Darwin. There's so many great COVID beards out there, I have to say. As many,
He's had this from like 1990.
Oh, really? Well, I just haven't seen you for a long time then.
Darwin.
Very handsome.
Darwin looks the same, unchanged.
He's not quite as dark-haired as he once was.
All right. So you're still down there in Orange County, though, right?
We're in Laguna Beach, which is still blue, let me say.
That's great. That's great.
And I just want to say, everyone else has talked about your incredible accomplishments. I want to see what you do next, and do it from Washington, please.
Thanks. Thanks. So can we... Is this the end of all the wonderful things? I can't believe there's anything more to be said that hasn't already been said.
Well, we come from the Quaker tradition, so there is a moment where we let people speak spontaneously. But in the meantime, why don't you tell us what's on your mind to the honoree?
I mean, what's on my mind is, first of all, of course, I'm overwhelmed by all the kind things that you all have said. And I wish I were the person that all of that portrays, but I try to live up to it. I will try to live up to it as long as I have the ability to be involved in any way in protecting our air, our environment, and helping to save the planet from the scourge of climate change. I will try to do that. So we'll see where that ends up taking me. But in the meantime, I really had no idea that this evening was going to turn into this kind of a, I don't know, I guess you can't call it a roast, but just, like a big retirement party. I really thought I was going to get an award, which I'm always happy to get awards, but I didn't expect that it was going to turn into quite such an amazing array of people from all the various parts of my life and career. And I owe every one of you in one way or another thanks for having helped make it all possible. Of course, including Tom Quinn, who did introduce me to Jerry Brown, and to Jerry Brown, who appointed me as a then not quite 30-year-old mother of a infant to be on the Air Resources Board, which up until that time had been led by pretty senior engineering types. So it was a kind of a remarkable beginning to my work in public life. There is no place that I know of in the world other than California that would have made all of this possible, not just for me, but for all of us. The opportunities that everyone who's I've seen tonight on the screen or on the list of attendees has had and has taken to contribute to the preservation and improvement of this wonderful place that we all call home. I moved to California, as I think you know, after law school, and immediately got to work on air pollution. But I've been here so long now that there are lots of people who assume that I'm a native Californian and, you know, ask me where I went to high school and things like that. And I'm terribly proud of that. I love being thought of as a Californian because I truly am an adopted Californian, and my kids are too. Now that they are natives, so they get to claim that mantle. But this has been an amazing period of time that I've had an opportunity to work in. We have accomplished a tremendous amount together. And I truly meant the comments I made about the role of the legislators because it hasn't always been easy for them to support us. Sometimes asking for their approval to go off and do things that were difficult to explain, and asking for a lot of resources to do it with. And as a result of that, the Air Resources Board, which had, I believe it was a little more than 300 people when I first started there, is now an agency with almost 1,700 people and a truly global reach. So just from the perspective of somebody who likes building institutions, I feel like the Air Resources Board, as it is today, and even more as it will be when we move our Southern California headquarters to the incredible building that we will have in Riverside, and the relationship that we will have that's even deeper than the one we have now with the University of California as a result of being there on a campus. These are the things that will carry us forward, I believe, into the future, and that will continue to make it possible for California to develop and implement the policies that do make it a leader in the world in addressing the issues about how you protect the environment and also grow the economy at the same time. We have a lot of work to do, and not everything we do is perfect. Not everything we've tried has always worked. And certainly our state has some tough days ahead of it, and not just because of the virus that's kept us all away from partying together, but the tremendous inequities that exist in our society that make it less of a place of opportunity than it was when I first moved here. So while we're enjoying and celebrating the accomplishments that we have had, I hope we will be able to dedicate ourselves to continuing to improve upon our record and to make this even more the place that we all would love it to be. And with that, I want to raise my glass and toast all of you and thank you so much for this incredible evening, including the wine that was shipped to my house today. So it's very nice wine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And on the wine, that leads us to want to, in addition to toasting Mary, we want to thank B&B Winery, which is owned by our friend Dusty Baker, who is the head of the Baker Energy team. And he helped us with our sponsors. And I want to, before we leave, I want to make special recognition and thanks to our sponsors. Sierra's going to put the poster over here so we can hopefully show it, but I'll read it in the meantime. Nature Conservancy, EDF Renewables, NRD, Natural Resource Defense Council, Union of Concerned Scientists, Vote Solar, Berkshire Hathaway Energy, NextEra, Peter Weiner, Mark Abramowitz, Long Duration Storage Association, Lucas Public Affairs, SMUD, Toyota North America, and Cal ETC, and our friend Kirk Markwald. So we have others that we may not have got on the poster, but We thank our sponsors and we thank everybody that's participated. We hope that you are safe and healthy. This has been our great privilege to help put this together. I go back to Mary in the Riverside days, and I think it's particularly important to recognize the words that Art Weiner spoke. The reason that California has been successful has been because of our commitment to the science. And that was built in from the very beginning with the Brown administration appointments. Bob Sawyer, who was a distinguished professor of combustion engineering, really gave Tom and Mary the firepower to go up against the auto company technical people. And you know, those were very difficult days. And there was a lot of arguments that at the time we weren't sure we're going to win. So in the meantime, I'm optimistic about the climate crisis, even though it's scary, because of our success in California, because we have shown that we can reduce air pollution. We've shown that we can clean up cars and fuels and advanced technologies. So we're grateful for everybody that participated tonight. We're especially grateful for our friend Mary, and to have the opportunity to share this evening with you is our great pleasure. And we wish you all the best, and we're thankful to everyone that showed up tonight. It's a really wonderful occasion. Any last words, Mary, before we go?
No, just thank you all for being here. Thanks for being my friends.
No, is it all done? No.
All right. Everybody can see the comments on Zoom, and
I mean, it's got another half hour to go.
so much.
I might over earlier.
Take care.
Good night, everybody. Good
Bye,
night.
everybody.
Night.
Bye.
Hi, Mary.
Bye.
Hi, Mary.
Mary.
Good night. Thank you.
Peace.
Mary.
Love you, Mary.
I love you.
See you, Mary.
Bye-bye, Mary.
Bye, Mary.
Bye, Mary.
Bye, Mary.